Welcome to Nightmare Narratives. This story's called Art of the Hitcher. Every ride has a cost. For Harvey, it's art. For you, it's your face. As Harvey sat at the small, weathered table in the diner, indulging in a bacon and egg burger dripping with grease, he prepared to continue his journey. The local radio station buzzed in the background, announcing, with an air of urgency, that for the very first time, a suspicious death had occurred in the quiet town of Burke. The authorities were appealing for anyone with information to come forward, prompting intrigue from the other patrons. A twisted little smile crept across Harvey's face. Knowing he possessed knowledge of events that others did not, he was privy to secrets lurking in the shadows. With that unsettling smile still lingering, he pushed himself away from the table and stepped outside, ready to hit the road again. After walking for about an hour under the relentless sun with his thumb up, a vehicle pulled over to the side of the road, and he approached it eagerly, sliding into the passenger seat. The man behind the wheel struck Harvey as a bit of a yobbo, with a scruffy appearance marked by long, greasy hair that clung to his scalp, yellowing teeth with several notable gaps, and a cigarette dangling precariously from his lips. A grin appeared on his face as he turned to face Harvey, and Harvey immediately wished the man hadn't smiled. "Where are you going?" the man inquired in a rough, gravelly voice. Harvey answered, "I'm just a traveling salesman. My car broke down on the way to Queensland, and to rent a car, I must now travel to the next major town." The man, clearly eager for conversation, began to chat about the mundane aspects of everyday life, droning on about local gossip and trivial happenings. Then, unexpectedly, he shifted the topic to his wife, reminiscing, saying how beautiful she had been when they first met. As Harvey listened, a cynical thought crossed his mind. This man, with his disheveled appearance and rough demeanor, was unlikely to have ever had a beautiful wife. Nevertheless, he stifled his judgment and allowed the man to continue his tale. Then he started to explain how he and his wife hadn't had a sexual relationship in years, and how it was sad that this happened in some relationships, and that it had led him to find alternative means to satisfy his sexual desires. He smiled at Harvey, placing his hand on Harvey's knee. Harvey knew all too well what the man was indicating. How could this man even begin to think that Harvey would be interested in him? The man explained to Harvey that he could take him as far as he would like to go, and he would take payment for petrol by other means. Then, the man talked about other sexual exploits with people he had picked up on the side of the road. Harvey thought he was trying to make him aroused or something. Not that this was working. Harvey knew he wasn't about to travel with this joker for long. He was already sick of his foul mouth. Harvey carefully placed his medical bag on his lap, positioning it to shield its contents from view, and with steady hands, he grasped the syringe he had meticulously prepared the night before. As he glanced sideways, he noticed the man casting a curious glance in his direction, prompting Harvey to say that you could never seem to find a pen when you needed one. Harvey lied, saying it might be nice for the man to have his number, in case he ever needed to reach out. The man nodded eagerly, his enthusiasm palpable as he replied, "Yep, yep, yep, that'd be great." Seizing the opportunity, Harvey placed his hand on the man's thigh, giving it a light rub while maintaining eye contact, which he hoped would keep him engaged and unsuspecting. In one swift motion, he jabbed the needle into the man's skin, expecting the familiar reaction that he had come to know all too well. However, unlike previous encounters, this man didn't immediately pull over like the others. Instead, his foot remained firmly pressed against the accelerator, causing Harvey's heart to race in alarm. In a panic, Harvey quickly grabbed the steering wheel, desperately trying to steer the car straight as the man's body began to slump within mere seconds. Realizing that time was of the essence, Harvey deftly maneuvered the car towards the verge of the road, his mind racing as he shifted the car into neutral while simultaneously pulling on the handbrake. The vehicle sputtered in protest, each noise a desperate plea as it gradually came to a halt. It was quite a busy section of the road, with vehicles passing at alarming speeds. Fortunately, the man was relatively light, allowing Harvey to recline the passenger seat and pull him over with surprising ease before dragging him into the back seat. Harvey had always considered himself a lucky person, and this moment was no exception. As he popped the trunk, he was pleasantly surprised to discover a blanket tucked away inside, which he quickly retrieved and draped over the man in the back seat, ensuring concealment. With determination, Harvey removed the man's jumper and fashioned it into a makeshift pillow for his head. He then searched through his pockets, hoping to find something useful. After a brief rummage, Harvey located the man's wallet, but to his disappointment, it contained no cash, only a few credit cards. Yet, Harvey couldn't shake the feeling that luck was still on his side. He had always prepared for the unexpected. To top it all off, as he glanced at the fuel gauge, he realized that this guy had almost a full tank of petrol, a fortunate stroke of luck that meant he could continue his journey without any immediate worries. In the distance, Harvey could see the flashing blue and red lights of several police cars, and a small group of drivers were being waved over to the side of the road. It was obvious that they had set up a breathalyzer checkpoint, but Harvey remained calm and collected, unaffected by the roadside stop. As he slowly pulled his car into the designated area for the test, he lowered his window smoothly. The officer, standing at the ready, looked at him with a knowing smile and said, "Well, I'm sure you already know what we are doing here today. Have you had anything to drink so far?" Harvey chuckled and confidently replied, "Nope, not today." The officer nodded, his tone friendly but professional, and gestured toward the breathalyzer device. "All right then, please place your lips around the mouthpiece, take a deep breath in, and blow into the device steadily until I tell you to stop." Harvey, with no hesitation, did exactly as instructed, his breath filling the device with a gentle but consistent exhale. As he blew, the officer glanced briefly into the backseat of Harvey's car. Harvey, noticing the officer's gaze, casually remarked, "Yeah, it's been a long drive." The officer, not missing a beat, raised an eyebrow and asked, "Where are you headed?" Harvey smiled and explained, "We are going to Queensland for a holiday. Thought we'd take the scenic route and enjoy the drive." The officer's expression softened a little. "Ah, that sounds like a nice trip," he said. "You'll have plenty of time to relax once you get there, I'm sure." Harvey nodded, his tone light-hearted. "Yeah, it should be great. We've been sharing the driving. I did the first shift, so now my mate's buggered. He's knocked out cold in the back seat." The officer chuckled briefly, then glanced back at the breathalyzer screen as it processed the results. After a moment, he looked back up at Harvey with a reassuring smile. "All right, the test came back negative. You're all good to go. Have a safe drive, and enjoy your holiday in Queensland." Harvey gave a friendly nod, expressing his gratitude with a warm smile. "Thanks, mate. Will do." He rolled up his window, shifted his car back into drive, and pulled away, the weight of the checkpoint already behind him as he continued his journey. Dusk settled over the horizon, casting the world in a soft, fading light. Harvey pulled into a nearby motel. He approached the reception, inquiring if they had a room for the night. To his relief, they did. It wasn't a busy motel, with only a few scattered guests staying there. The quiet atmosphere suited him perfectly. Under the growing cover of night, Harvey took hold of the Yobbo's lifeless body, his movements deliberate and careful. He carried its weight into the dimly lit motel room and laid it down on the cold, worn carpet. Without hesitation, he began rifling through the cupboards, his fingers brushing over various odds and ends, until he found a clean pillowcase. With a faint, eerie satisfaction, he laid the pillowcase beside the body's head. It was the perfect canvas for his next macabre creation, a twisted masterpiece waiting to take shape. Harvey took out his surgical equipment, removed the lids of this man's eyes, placed them neatly on the pillowcase, and took 2 ribbons of skin from the man's neck to create the outline for his face. He cut both cheeks off, engraved the word "No" on each cheek, and placed them onto the pillowcase. Next, he positioned the bottom lip on the pillowcase, removed 2 of the man's yellowed teeth, and positioned them over the bottom lip. Finally, he took off the top lip and placed it on top of the bottom lip, creating a twisted grin with teeth. Harvey was always pleased with his works of art. Then he went to bed and slept soundly. While rummaging through the man's wallet, Harvey felt a surge of disbelief. The fool had written his PIN down on a small scrap of paper tucked inside. Harvey's eyes narrowed, the realization dawning on him that this could be an unexpected opportunity. He quickly made his way to the nearest ATM to test his theory. After a few moments of suspense, his suspicions were confirmed. The account was accessible, and the idiot had left the door wide open. Without hesitation, Harvey made a small withdrawal, ensuring he wouldn't be overly conspicuous. He then picked up a few supplies he'd need before returning to the motel, where he paid for the room without a second thought. Before he resumed his travels, however, Harvey set about preparing a subtle, yet effective, plan. He took one of his needles and snapped it into small, jagged pieces. Then, as if in a trance, he grabbed a piece of chewing gum and began to work it into the keyhole of the motel room's door. He carefully jammed the broken needle pieces into the lock, followed by more gum, ensuring that the mechanism would be nearly impossible to operate. Once satisfied with his work, Harvey left the room and set off, his mind already turning to the next part of his journey. Hours later, when the motel's cleaner arrived for her routine rounds, she immediately encountered a problem. She tried to insert the key into the door, but it wouldn't budge. She twisted and turned the key in frustration, but the lock was completely jammed. Unwilling to fall behind schedule, she decided to skip this room and move on to the others. Once the remaining units had been cleaned, she returned to the troublesome door, hoping the problem would somehow resolve itself. But when she tried again, it became clear that there was no way she could get the key to turn. Puzzled, she knelt and peered closely into the lock. Her eyes widened when she saw the unmistakable remnants of chewing gum and pieces of metal jammed deep inside. Realizing the situation was beyond her skill set, the cleaner reported the issue to the manager. The manager, visibly irritated, hurried to the door to inspect the damage for himself. He immediately saw the cause of the problem, and his temper flared. With a sigh of frustration, he attempted to call the guest who had booked the room. But when the phone rang, there was no answer, and after several attempts, he realized there wasn't even a ringtone. The number, he knew now, was a false one. Enraged, he called the only locksmith in town, hoping to resolve the situation quickly. The locksmith, a gruff man with little patience for these emergencies, informed him that he could not make it until the following day. Despite the inconvenience, the motel owner reluctantly agreed, stating that there were only a handful of bookings for the night, so they could afford to wait. Remember to like, subscribe and share to others, so you don't miss an episode.